Welcome to Women in Tech series with Suraya Turk. Today's episode is about navigating through resilience. It's about turning challenges into opportunities. And today's guest, we have a very special guest in the tech industry who's a powerhouse in her own right, the Vice President of Logitech EMEA, Loubna Imenchal. Loubna Imenchal has defined a career of grit, resilience, and strategic visions. She has turned challenges into opportunities, and today she tells us how. She shares with us why setbacks can be your greatest success. And if there's an episode you don't want to miss, it's this one. Right, it's a pleasure to have you with us, Loubna. I'm really excited to the conversation with you, and I think similar to what we were speaking about earlier, I've seen you on lots of panels, and really excited to have this one-on-one with you today. And what I wanted to start with is really just telling us about your journey. So, how did you move into tech? We know you're Vice President of Logitech, which is an excellent position, to be in. But what's the journey that led you to becoming?
Well, first, thank you for having me today. It's really
welcome.
Pleasure to be in a podcast dedicated to women in tech. And I'd love to share a lot of, I would say, insight on how we move in tech industry as women. And yes, my journey was more than 24 years without saying my age. And
I won't guess.
I started very early. I started when I was 18 years old. So
okay.
I didn't follow the classic, I would say, way of finishing high school. I finished high school, finishing the bachelor, and then go into the industry and the work. I was more passionate about working and getting independent as women, and I started when I was 18 years old. So basically, my first internship, I said, if you like me, you can hire me. And they would say, but you are 18, you are a kid, you need to finish first your bachelor, then we can hire you if you are a good fit. So when they proposed to me to say, hey, can you come back 2 years after? And I said, yeah, why not now? And this is how I started working. But later on, they told me, if you want to grow up within the organization, then you need to finish your bachelor. So I was doing the studies as well as working. And this is how I got early. And then later on, I've done my MBA in l'École Nationale des Ponts et Chaussées in Paris, one of the most prestigious schools to do MBA. But I got it also early because I had the work experience, which is very important. Otherwise, you would not actually be accepted in MBAs now back in that time.
Right.
So, and then my experience was always with multinational because I started with multinational as an internship. Okay. So I've done Alcatel mobile phone, FedEx, Honeywell, then Jabra, then Johnson Control, which is the competition of Honeywell, and then Logitech today. And the position that I've been, I started being marketing manager, right?
I was going to ask about that. What did you start in as a position or career?
Yeah, okay. My internship was within marketing department. Doing some survey, and when I was 18, and it was very good back in that time because it allows me to observe how the client is actually reaching out the product, if they like it or not. And this is how I got the offer to start as a marketing responsible. Then I grew up after 5 years to be the marketing manager for North Africa, based out of Paris. And then what I remember very well to share with the audience how I moved from marketing role to business development role, or to sales role, then to leadership role. I remember my fifth year, and I sit with my manager back in that time in France, and he was like, I told him, from my perspective, we're gonna die as a company. And he said what? I said, look, we are producing products as a mobile phone on how to get the smallest mobile phone. I don't know if you remember that.
The smallest, the really big one to the really small size, and everyone started to compete.
Exactly, the pocket one, the small size.
Correct,
and I said, everyone is focusing on a voice. That's why we're bringing the screen very small. I think we're gonna die as a mobile phone company, not the all Alcatel, of course, as a mobile phone division, because the generation come in, they're going to be focused on the data. That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
But I was like 23 years. No one can hear me. Like, I am the kid.
Yeah,
like,
who's this young person coming up with what's going to be the trend?
Exactly.
Okay.
Like they were saying, and what are you doing here if you don't believe in us? And I said, you're right. I'm going to leave. Because I don't see the future of this division. The Alcan as a company is great. But I don't see the future because we are not, again, and we will come back to that one, innovation is a key. And we're not innovating, we're just competing. It's completely different.
Absolutely.
Like if Nokia has been doing the small one, we're going to come back with the smallest, and so on. So we're not disrupting. And this is what happened. Guess what? Nokia was the leader.
And then?
And they died.
Yes.
And then Apple came. Apple were not in mobile phone.
No.
Absolutely not. They were in a laptop industry.
Computers, exactly.
Computers.
Exactly.
So they came up with the mobile phone. Why? Because they had access to people, and they understood that people are gonna be in a data-driven, not voice-driven. Like we don't call anymore. Correct. We text more, right? And the fact that people were texting back in that days, that's why I went to my manager and said, we're gonna die. People are texting more than talking. Right? They want to chat, and the coming generation will be there. We need to be there. But guess what? We're not prepared. As division, we were more focusing on competing than actually coming with the new understanding the markets. So there is always two approach in my, and this is how I can tell you how I shift in my experience. It's always about being curious. Curiosity for me is the key. Because if you are curious to understand, you will not focus only on your competition. So Apple was actually more curious than the other companies. They came up with disruptive technology because they were curious to understand their customer. And to summarize, they were more customer-driven, market-driven than product-driven. We were product-driven. We were like trying to bring the smallest one because we are competing. With our perception was more about the product and not about market. And this, where I shift completely, and I said to myself, if it was amazing days, like it was amazing experience. You know, when you are 18 to 23, being in a tech that is evolving every month. Because every month we needed the smallest screen and forecasting and doing a lot of marketing campaign, events and sponsorship. Like it was amazing. But I didn't feel like, and of course the reaction, everyone took me for crazy. Who is this kid deciding for multinational mobile phone division to say that we're gonna die? Our CEO is not saying that. Like how come she is the first saying that? What I learned from that one, not only to develop the critical thinking, but it serves me as lesson today to never underestimate wherever the position of people talking to you, to not take in consideration their opinion. Like if I have now in my team someone 23 years old or 18 years old, I have to listen. They might have some good ideas, because they are talking about different generation. My boss back in that time was like 47 years. I was 23. We were not same generation.
You had your finger on the pulse. You actually knew what the generation wanted.
I was having a critical thinking completely different than him.
Different perspective.
But he didn't listen to that. Because for him, I am a kid. Now things are changing. We need to listen to the kids more. I would say that.
I love that.
So this is how I moved. And when I moved to FedEx, another experience to share as learning, I was not speaking one single word in English. I was French speaker. So I do remember my interview, and my manager was British. And he was like, I received your CV, Loubna, but you don't speak one single word in English. How are we going to make this interview? I said, hold on. I have to translate. He said, what? I said, yeah. And I was, every time he's asking me question, I translated. Wow. And I translate my answer. And I was speaking with my French accent in English. And he was like, oh yeah, I never had this type of interview. And I said, why you are focusing on the language? Focus on my ideas. He said, you know what? I'm going to
Good
hire you
point.
just because of that.
Wow.
He said, I was sharing my ideas, but for him, I put him in a position that he was not used to. But because my ideas were good, he got, and then he said, God help you on how you're going to lead a team when you don't speak one word English. I said, give me 3 months. I'm not going to ask for 1 month. It's not realistic.
Yeah.
Give me 3 months.
3
Then he said,
months.
why, you're going to take some courses? I said, no, I'm going to watch more TV shows. And he said, wow. And I said, why I'm going to lie to you? It's not true. Courses will not help me to learn. It's not 1 hour per day that's going to help me. I need to practice. I need to see how people, they act. I need to know what is the body language of when you talk in English. How is it? It's not like the French when we say, I mean, it's not the same,
No.
you know? It's the
no
language is
expression.
culture. We should not forget that. When we learn a language, we learn about the culture too. Because
True.
when I speak Lebanese, it's not like I'm speaking Egyptian.
No.
I learned the culture of Lebanese automatically. When I speak Arabic, it's another culture.
True.
Either we like it or not. When I speak French,
that's the reality. Exactly.
the body language also changed, and it's another culture. So that's why I told them I'm going to watch more.
And so how long did you
share.
stay in that role for? You managed to get past the 3 months, I assume.
Yeah, 4 years, and then
Okay,
I was.
wow,
But
brilliant.
I had 2 challenges: no experience in sales, and no one word in English.
Oh, wow. So you had to overcome
And all
that.
my competitors, all the other candidates, they were excellent, coming from competition, from DHL. And they speak very well language, and they already been in Dubai. I had none of them. So this experience showed me, first I was lucky to meet someone who was open to this, who was humble enough to accept, to hear someone who's not coming from the industry. He was looking for the mindset, not for the experience. And that's the first thing. So my part was on how to change his perspective, to focus on my ideas instead of focusing on the language. Language is just a way of expression. It will not give you good ideas. Absolutely
So
not.
true.
If you have ideas, you will choose the way on expressing them. And you have Google Translate back in that time,
Yeah.
which I used. Now you have AI, he can speak on your
Yeah,
behalf,
exactly.
which is
Now we've
amazing.
got AI,
So
yeah.
we were always looking for ideas and mindset, not necessarily someone who has the experience in the field, because he wanted someone who's going to lead the team of North Africa, who knows the culture of North Africa, who knows the partners there, strong enough to impose what FedEx back in that time wants to do as you get to strategy. So he found it when I had that interview 1 year later. He told me, because you had 3 challenges in the interview and how you actually overcome them, that's why I hired you. Because you're going to face a lot of challenges in the field. It's the way on how you
address them and how you overcome them.
Exactly.
I love that, which is why my next question is going to be about women who are moving into the technology space now, who are probably not from that background, are going to have similar but different challenges to what you had moving into an industry that you didn't know anything about. And so you've said something really important about it being about the mindset. But when I think of technology, and a lot of people that I speak to think of technology, they often immediately think about what skills you have in technology, what skills and value add you have in that space. But is it necessarily about that? I mean, what's your advice to women who are a little bit overwhelmed about technology and AI and how it's revolutionizing the industries that they're in and how it might be impacting their careers, and they think, oh my God, I've got to upskill now? Is it just about upskilling? What do they need to do? What would you advise them?
I would say, honestly speaking, there's 3 things to address here. First of all, it depends on the position. I cannot tell you, like, if you need to be engineer, don't have the experience of being engineer. It's not true.
Yeah, no.
But what I can say, if you want to be an engineer today, the job of being engineer is going to be 80% covered by AI. like the first advice I would say, don't focus only on one thing. Okay. So the machine will replace it. So you need to find yourself on how actually to control the machine instead of doing the job of the machine. It's completely different. So when we come back, let's take this example, how to control the machine. So how to control the machine, definitely you need some technical skills, okay? Because we are the one who created AI, it's not the opposite. Let's not forget about that.
True.
True. Maybe one day
we often do, don't we?
Yeah, maybe one day we're gonna put the brain of the human in a museum and say, hey, this is the one who created AI. I mean, our grandkids will say it's the brain of a human who created AI. As you know, but that's the first thing. I do believe because of this AI, that's gonna replace a lot of like coding, for example, today. It's done by AI. It's not anymore by people.
So interesting. I was thinking about that the other day. Do you remember there was this phase about everybody's got to go out and learn coding.
No.
And now, you know, if you did that or made a career out of it, you simply got AI that's doing the coding. You really don't need to do that anymore.
But it doesn't mean there is no job around it.
Yeah.
That's what I meant.
It's just a different form now.
It will be different form. It's like a transformation of this one. It's you remember like our grand I would say ancestors. They were like doing the same, you know, movements in the automotive industry, for example. He's gonna stay the whole day doing this movement. So this movement has been done by a machine, right? But it doesn't mean he lost his job. He will lose his job if he was only focusing on this. But he can actually develop himself and be in the chef of, I don't know, the robotic chain or something else. And this is exactly what's happening today. Like the coding, as example, is replaced by AI, but the transformation around it, the verification of it, all this stuff. I'm not technical, but I can say like everything around it, it's still by human and should be by human, by the way, like, because the data that you are giving to the AI, don't forget that AI is about data. Who's going to control this data given?
Or who does it come from? I mean, it comes from people. It comes from the interaction, engagement. It comes from the output of our minds, really.
Yeah.
And
so that's the first thing. The second thing, as you mentioned in your question, how these women should actually be in the tech industry. I think we are shifting from technical, I would say, experience to be more developing soft skills. I know it's cliche when we talk about soft skills, but I can tell you, and I shared from my own experience, the soft skill will become more and more and more important. Because when you have a robot, it doesn't have soft skills.
No.
He has 100% technicals, correct? And when you have a human, the difference between him, and we're gonna always look for the difference between human and robot today. And the human side is all about soft skills. It's all about emotion intelligence. We're not talking about technical intelligence anymore, right? And the mindset, which I addressed before, and by giving an example of my own experience. And I'm going to share the third experience that I had once I decided to leave FedEx on the 2008, which was like the economic crisis in the Middle East, in global. And I had an offer from DHL. I declined it. It's easy money and everything. I wanted to go to an industry completely different. Honeywell. Honeywell is about building management system, HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning. It has nothing to do with what I'm doing. And you can't enter this company or this industry if you are not engineer. So I was refused 3 times.
Okay.
And I do remember the hiring agency, without naming them, is a multinational company. They said, we brought you an offer from competition, take it. Why you want to go to Honeywell? It's male-dominated 99%. All engineering's background. The team that you have to lead, if you have this position, are actually 30 years older than you. So why you want to be there? I said, I want to learn something new. I want to be in the age of technology. And I do believe the building management systems we're gonna all, back in that time,
Yeah.
we're all gonna have smart building, which is exactly happening. There is no building now that you go where there is no HVAC or heating or smart system or security system or all it's done, right? And back in 2008, I said, this is where I want to be. This is the type of industry where I want to be. It's because it's going to go like this. And I want to be part of this success, and I will be part of this. And they said, what do you want us? You are not engineer. You are a woman.
Okay.
And
They
you are
said
younger.
that bluntly, did they?
And you are younger than all. You are like 28 years. All the engineers are around 45, 50 because they've been doing 30 years in the same company. I don't know if they're gonna listen to you. You are not even credible because you are not engineer. I said, book for me 10 minutes with your clients and tell your clients, and this is up to you, that you are not recommending me. So if I win, you will not get paid. If I lose, you gave the right advice to your client.
Yeah.
Up to you.
And they took the challenge.
And they were like, okay, but we're still the one who recommend you, you know? But that was like, I said, this is what I'm saying. But because I'm going to share it with your clients, I will say that you are not recommending me. You don't want to be taken as a stupid, right? You want to stay professional. My profile is 0 for you. So let me take my chances. That's exactly what happened. They gave me 10 minutes, which ended up with 1 hour, 45 minutes. My interview was not, I would say, the classic one, because I came, they were jury. This is how they hire. Like you have the VP sales, VP operation,
they have a panel
VP
interview.
HR,
Okay.
and the panel, and all of them, they say no, except my hiring manager. And I stayed, and when I started, I said, listen, don't look at my CV, I'm not the right candidate. Because I didn't want that this jury be focusing on my CV and they don't listen to me. So whatever they think about it, I came in the first seconds in the interview saying, please don't look at my CV, I'm not the right person on CV. Focus on my speech. I might change your mind. Give me the chance. So they put, I remember because they were looking at my CV, you know, it's the paper.
They were thinking, how did she get into this room?
Yeah, and then they put it aside. I said, thank you for that. Now focus on my presentation. You need a country leader. Is that right? They say yes. It wasn't interactive, and I push it that way. I asked the right question. You need a country leader, if I understood well. They said yes. You need someone who's going to open the doors for you, right? Yes. You need someone who has a C-level connection, right? Yes. Do you need someone who's going to draw the plans? No, not necessarily. He has a team. Do you need someone who's strong enough to convince people and trust and has a track record, being credible? So I listed everything first. Until I got all yes.
I was going to say, you got a string of yeses.
And then I said, then you have the right person. Because you just told me you don't need someone who's going to draw plans as an engineer. Correct. So the focus for them on the job description when they mentioned the mandatory engineer is actually changed during the conversation. So, and then I presented my PowerPoint back in that time, and I said, this is actually the current situation of the market. This is what I got from Google about your company, and this is what I can do for you as a key point and as a key project that you can win. My challenge here is actually your trust, nothing else. Because all what I showed, I can do it. And the first thing that you need to remember, I don't want to fail. So I'm taking this as a good challenge because I like it. And you need to focus on the mindset. If I'm taking this position as a challenge, that means every challenge coming, I will keep and I will make sure I will overcome it. So that's why the interview has changed. So they say there is a mindset here. So that's bringing me to answer to your question. It's always about the mindset. It's never about the job itself. It's always about the mindset.
Mindset.
And the mindset now is evolving because of AI. What is the add value of people that you are hiring? If they don't have the right mindset, the right shift, we will need more people who can adapt themselves quickly. Because AI today is doing 80% coding. Tomorrow, by the end of 2025, it's going to be 100%. So the evolution of AI taking space, it's going very fast. So the adaptation of people has to go
to be just as
fast as an AI.
But I think what I love about the point, and I think if we even draw from what you were saying earlier, in the companies where you were talking about, they were sitting there trying to compete rather than innovate. And it's almost, that's how we need to treat AI. Don't sit there and compete with AI, because you're never going to match its
fail.
speed and accuracy and what it's able to do. But innovate just through being human, through curiosity, through mindset, through questioning, through adapting, through being agile, changing. I mean, I really love that message that's come through, and we've got to see that AI is not a competition. Don't like, for a woman that's moving into this tech space, put aside that it's even tech, put aside that it's an industry that you might know nothing about. What do you, as a woman, maybe in a leadership capacity, or somebody who's been in a career for so many years that might need to be adapting now, how are you going to survive that change, and how are you going to turn a challenge into an opportunity? And I guess like what you've done, and every single time embrace each challenge by the horns, really, and go, come on, what am I going to do to turn this around and make this a success? So
and that goes back to the mindset, because I do remember when I was 18 years, the first decision that I made is to stop schooling. It was a bold decision,
which I think I was gonna say to you, I think at the time
and my parents, they went crazy.
I was
like, for them,
at
it
the
was
time, like if you're talking about 24 years ago, at that time,
was
everybody
1995.
would have thought that you were crazy. Because back then, I mean, even when I was doing schooling, it was all about education. You've got to finish your education. You've got to go to university. You've got to get that degree. Whereas now, fast track, 25 years later, I actually wonder whether universities are becoming redundant. The things that we're learning, I mean, you see what kids are learning in the classroom today. They're not learning about AI. They're not learning about how technology is changing every industry. They're not keeping up to the times. Honestly, if you see the curriculum, it's the same as what we were taught 25 years ago. So it's interesting that you had that. But how did you become so bold to think, forget the education, experience is what's going to take me and lead me and allow me to become successful in every role? I mean, even have thought that at that time?
I didn't, honestly. It was a spontaneous decision, but I was convinced about it. And don't forget, the most people who were supposed to support me, they were against me. My parents. Simple as that. When I told them I don't want to finish university, they were like, you've been good at school. You finished your high school when you are 16 years old, the first one in the high school. Why you want to stop? You can have a nice degree. You can be this. You can be this. I said, forget about it. What I'm learning, what I learned in my internship is much more important than what I learned in 2 years in university. Let me learn the reality. I do believe the fact that I was, and I'm always down to earth. Again, the critical thinking. Like, because if you are humble enough to put yourself on the right question and say, am I doing the right thing being here? Instead of following people, what they are doing. Like, you forgot about people. And that's what happened, unfortunately. It's we are in a society where we are always impacted by what the other person thinks about me, what the other person is doing. What if I do this, people, they will say this about me. That's the problem.
And you can't innovate like that, can you? Because you can't be creative. If you're just following what everybody's doing, then where is that room for creativity and to do something different?
And as I told my parents, I said, if I am wrong, I can always come back to university. Okay?
That's a true point too.
So I'm always having my plan B. Plan B, C, D. That's why they called me in the company BCD, because that's my nickname. I always have my plan B. So I said, so let me try it. I'm 18 years old. I'm young. Okay? I just got the double digit of my age 8 years back. So let me leave that. But I was more driven by freedom and having my salary, having my own business car, they knew that.
Yeah.
So they were like saying, we can give you that if you want to go to the university. I said, no, I want to make it by myself. You paid enough. By the way, I've done public school, so they didn't pay anything. They paid 2 years private university. They didn't pay the public school. So to come back to your questions, which I loved, by the way, because it's very, very critical question that people are always afraid of. I don't recommend to be afraid of AI. I do believe we can be, how say that? I need to choose the right word in English. Not afraid, but careful about the outcome of AI. It's completely different. AI cannot compete as long as you are using it. So women, they want to go in the tech industry. Guess what? You are very lucky because your technical knowledge are not required as it was required decades ago.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What
so
we are
true.
requiring is your critical thinking, your mindset, your thinking out of the box. That it will be a very high requirement coming to all the coming generation, not only women. And this is where I see that women will be for once equal. The best ideas will win.
Well, actually, what I wanted to put to you was, do you think we're even going to be better at that? Because I tell you, I feel that women naturally, communication is easier for them. Naturally, being a nurturer, being a carer, being, leader in different capacities, whether they're mothers, whether they're daughters, sisters. I mean, just emotional intelligence, I think.
Much higher.
I don't want to say men don't have it, but it comes a lot more naturally for women. So in the times that we're moving in, if we're saying now that yes, technology is going to is rapidly changing and AI is taking over, and now what humans need to be more focused on is emotional intelligence, doesn't that level the playing field? But maybe not even level the playing field. I feel like even give us an advantage. Okay, good. I want to know your point about that, because I'm listening to you going, I think we actually might be able to even, have a competitive edge here.
Yeah, I think for the first time, 2025, as I mentioned before in some panels, it's going to be the last year that we're going to see the before AI and after AI.
You think so?
Yeah. So it's going to shift in all levels, even from hiring perspective, from focus perspective in the companies, corporate, from entrepreneurship, from people who are investing on some startup. Everything's going to shift.
There is though one thing that in my mind makes me wonder, that institutionally and organizationally, culture has to change to allow women that space to move in. Similar to what you did in your interview, where you sat with a panel of men and you were not an engineer and you didn't have the skills that they were looking for, and yet you had to go in there and change their mindset and almost say to them, put aside my CV and listen to what I have to say. Now, they did that, which is, I think, unusual. But most of the time what we have is the issue of an organizational culture that is not encouraging or not, not developed enough. But it depends on who the leader is, right? That leadership culture is set by who the leaders are. And we still have particularly in the tech space, a male-dominated and very male-driven.
It is true.
So how does a woman penetrate that? I feel that you did it, but can every woman do the same?
I do believe, for example, in this experience, the panel was there. They were all over 50, which means old mindset.
Correct, old mindset.
And they have no problem to say, we don't want a women. Nowadays, you cannot say that.
No.
Right?
No, but you don't say it, but you can unofficially.
But in 2008, they were saying it.
Yeah.
Like literally speaking. Then, Because when I had one of the panelists he said, but you are a woman. I said, I can't change that. I say that. I said, yes, I'm not sorry for that. I'm born a woman. But if you are focusing on my sex, then what I brought to you here in presentation
is irrelevant.
Then it is your problem, not mine.
Yeah.
But if you tell me how you're going to manage men when you are a woman, I can answer to this question. Mm-hmm. But if you are telling me you are a woman, I don't see what is the question.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
it's all about, again, emotion intelligence on how you put this person facing his arguments. He will feel stupid about what he mentioned. So I'm not saying that women nowadays, I can just say that we are shifting, but slowly, very slowly, not to the level that we want to be. And again, as I mentioned last time, because we are in March, which is one day dedicated in the whole year to talk about women. And as long as we're celebrating this, that means we are not there yet, unfortunately. Because
it's not the norm then.
No,
I mean, it's a special day to celebrate, and that's it. What happens to this just being normal, that there are women in technology, that there were leading businesses?
And we're talking about equality, right?
Yeah.
If men, they were not... It's like the last time I was talking about men not being nurse. I was defending men. Because it's all about equality. Forget about the gender. It's about equality. We need more men to be nurse. Why it's always women? Why we are saying this? I mean, it's like you go to the hairdresser. We have men and women. You see, it's bring the add value to the business. So forget about the gender. Focus on the add value to the business. And that's exactly what I mentioned to the jury nowadays. I said, if you are asking me about women, I cannot change that. But if you are asking me how I'm going to deal with it, then let me share with you some ideas. So what happened? He felt embarrassed. Not because he's attacking me as a woman. Forget about that. He felt embarrassed to not ask the right question about the leadership.
And what you can actually bring
what
to
I
the
can
table.
bring to the table, instead of just saying you are a woman. You know? And then I said at the end, when we finished, and I said, you're gonna be the first man choosing a woman in leadership position. What about that?
One. Yeah, fantastic.
You see?
Yes.
So it's all, again, it's all
How
the
do you
mind.
change the narrative,
And I
flip
do
it?
believe, as I said to my parents, if I went to university, I would never learn about this. Because they don't teach you.
They don't teach you
How to present yourself, how to overcome challenging interviews, how to choose your career, or if you want to be entrepreneur, how to invest, which type of people you need to surround yourself. None of this is taught in universities.
True.
Or how to choose your investment, how to choose your risk, how to work on, none. Is there any actually, back in that time, I don't know now, any class that they can teach you on how to coach yourself? No? And
No.
what we need is this,
Is
because I've never used what I learned at school. Guess what I used more? It's something now disappeared from the curriculum, worldwide speaking.
Okay.
Philosophy.
Philosophy
Philosophy is the
interesting you
only
say
thing
that
I
Had somebody
used.
say that the other week too. Philosophy.
Philosophy.
Yes.
I was the first one in philosophy. When my colleague, classmate, they were saying, Loubna,
What are you doing in philosophy?
and they said, how come that you are the first one in philosophy? I said, guys, it's the only class that I can say everything, free to share my opinion, and guess what? I'm always right.
Oh, I love
Right?
that. Yeah, well, absolutely. 'Cause
It's philosophy.
It's free thinking.
Because it's bring you critical thinking. And
True.
the only class that bring you critical thinking, guess what? They removed it. There is no more philosophy in any curriculum. My son is not studying philosophy. In French system, there is no philosophy.
Yeah.
IB, no
No
philosophy.
philosophy.
So it's the only one that can actually let the student think freely, bring ideas, critical thinking, and come up with the theory at the end. Because you are actually thinking about something and then you can prove it right, even if everyone is saying the wrong things.
And I love that point, because that's the fundamental of innovation. If
Correct.
you can't disrupt and do something differently than what all your competitors are already doing, then you're not innovating, you're not
No.
disrupting, and then you're not creating something new. And I
And-
think that's
and
what,
some
it's almost like a
governments,
trap that we're all falling into. And I think it's relevant to both men and women. I mean, we're talking about women in tech today, which is, but it's so important to see that, wow, this idea of critical thinking, of free thinking, and challenging
what
the
we need.
norms and what we've...
Yeah. And to come back to your what you mentioned before for women, yes, the emotion intelligence in women, either we like it or not. Some people, they will say, yeah, because she's a woman, she's saying that. But some wise men, they can say, yes, we observe that. I have a 4 years girl and an 18 years boy. My 18 years boy, when he was 4 years, I do remember what he was doing, how he was talking, what was his focus. And I do remember when he was in the nursery, and they were not giving him, the Barbie, and because they were giving him the cars. And I said, why you are not giving him the Barbie? They said, are you sure? I said, yes. Why he's not taking them? Why you are isolating them? Why you are putting the guy with the cars and the girl with the Barbies? Put everything.
And they choose what they want to play with. Choose. Yeah.
Maybe if he needs to take care of a baby, I can see my daughter now, 4 years, she's taking care of her baby. You will tell me, yeah, it's a woman. No, because she's developing emotion intelligence. And I was talking to her, what's happening to your baby? She was like, he's crying, I need to take care of him, change his diapers, change his this, doing this. The thinking of all this. And I don't care if it is Barbie or a car. I do care about how she's thinking. And if I change the diaper now, maybe I should come back 2 hours later. This what's developed the emotion intelligence circus, you know what I mean? And my son back in that time, he was focusing on the cars because all the boys are cars, blah, 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 blah. And I told him, choose one of the baby. He chose the black one. And I said, why you choose the black one? He said, because no one cares about this one. So, and I said, really? He said, yeah, Mom, everyone is taking the nice one. I want to take care of this one because no one is taking care of this one. So I observed, and I told that in the nursery, look, his emotion intelligence is there. So this guy is going to be caring. And guess what? Later on, his first project was like, my dream is to have an organization taking care of humanity. No difference of colors of religions. I was proud of that one more than when he bring me A or B or C, whatever the code. Because why I'm giving these examples, it shows actually that education started from 0 to 5. That's the most important, because we give to the children because they are in the free thinking way. We go back to critical thinking, free way of seeing things, innovation.
No frameworks about how you should be or what you should do or how you need to think.
Exactly.
They're just being.
We are so lucky to be human. So lucky. Because when we are born free. The prison of ideas come later. The judgment come later. Like when my son chose the black one, everyone was laughing at him, because he chose the black one. But get what? I didn't tell him anything. He was like, you guys, you are wrong. I am the right one. If I choose the black one, it's because I'm defending, and I am the right one. So he convinced the other kids 4 years to be with him. So the judgment came after 6-7 years, when he started comparing himself and saying, if he's wearing this, I should wear this. If
he has this, I need this.
If he's eating this,
into that herd mentality almost.
But and as I told him, from 0 to 5, educating, specifically from 1 to 5, 0, they are still 1 to 5, educating them to be free in their mindset, they will keep that. So the role of the parent is very important. If the parent is still comparing himself, or the mom still comparing herself to another mom, that's wrong. But if she's convinced on the way of giving freedom, and when I'm talking about freedom, it's not about money, free of thinking to her kids, she is raising the right generation to be free of thinking. And we need people.
They're the innovators. They are the disruptors.
And AI gonna put people on a prison more. When I say prison thinking. Because when you are talking to ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is giving you an opinion, what happened? You believe it. Because you think, when I say you, not you.
No, I know. No,
as a human,
personally at all.
We think that ChatGPT have done everything, all the analysis, and give me the outcome. But guess what? ChatGPT is data. Whatever you give him as a data,
Correct.
he's gonna. So now the question: what type of data is going on to AI? That's the most important. And today, the data is still can suffer from some biases.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know what I
was
mean?
gonna say, yeah, no, for
So
sure.
the experience of a human is become more important. Like people, if they go to AI and ask about location, for example, AI will give all the information, right? Like going to Bali is nice, blah blah blah. Based on what? Based on the reviews of people. Now the question: if you don't experience by yourself, it doesn't mean that what you saw is real.
How are you going to verify the truth of what
Exactly.
it's telling you? And I think on that point, that's probably why as well, I mean, when I encourage women to really learn about and understand technology and the implications it's going to have, because if we're not part of that data, if we're not part of cleansing that data, verifying that data, if we're not part of, building that narrative around the data that goes in, there isn't going to be a fair representation, right?
It's true.
So if there's only
very
men
dangerous.
who are in women
Correct.
in tech, if there are only men who are collecting data, cleansing it, working on inputting that into the AI, that the AI then is going to learn and then it's going to give us output. If women are not in that space whatsoever, how on earth is there going to be a fair representation? So for me, it's always about, I encourage women to get out there and in that space, work out. I mean, you might not have the skill, you may have the skill.
No problem.
Develop it. It can be at any time. It could be a change of career. You could be experienced in one career for 20 years and now changing. But all of that experience and all of that knowledge is there for you now to draw on to change the discourse of what are we going to do with technology and how are we going to make it so it doesn't exacerbate the already existing, I guess, disparities between genders, but make it a level playing field like we were talking about earlier. Would you
Totally.
agree?
Let me share with you something. What I do in my type of leadership. When we start, for example, a meeting with the team, the whole team of the region, because the region is very large, so we have multicultural people. We introduced, and humbly speaking, it was my idea, we used to share best practice coming from each region. And I said to my team, 2024, we're going to introduce what we call worst practice. I don't want to be the best practice anymore. And they were like...
So what, you wanted them to talk about what the worst practice is?
Yes.
Okay.
Something they've done wrong.
Right, okay. And they were comfortable to do that? Or?
That's very good point. They were not in the beginning. But my role was actually to encourage them. I said, guys, you can't be perfect. I don't want you to be perfect. I want to learn from your mistakes. Because if you share the mistakes, everyone will knows about it. So we are saving them from doing this. Look how powerful you are. You're right?
Right.
And so if this person who is in Central Asia, hear from KSA team, something has been done wrong, and she was thinking of doing the same thing, she's going to learn to avoid it. You know what I mean? And the most important, I want you to share what you learned during the process, what you faced, how, if you faced some challenges, how did you overcome them? Why you were insisting on doing this? And all this, we are learning more from worst case than best case.
And again, I think in that particular scenario, you're developing critical thinking.
Correct.
So it's not just about what we're doing right, continue to do it.
Yeah, no.
What did we do wrong and how we can make that right. So again, being very critical, but without judgment.
Without judgment.
We listen and we don't judge the TikTok trend.
Yes, exactly. So could we have done this before? Let's say in the beginning of 19s or 2000? No, because we were ashamed. That's what I'm trying to explain to your question when you said women, they just have to come, and they are very lucky to be in this generation. To actually, everyone is looking, everyone is becoming on social media proud of saying, I've done something wrong. We couldn't hear that before. Not in my days.
No,
never.
There wasn't even
we were
a
just
platform.
hiding. If we did some mistake, how are we gonna hide this? How are we gonna make no one knows about it? Now it's the opposite. If you done something wrong, you came up and you share it. And everyone want to listen to you because what? They identify themselves to what you are saying. They say, oh my God, I'm human. Yeah, we are. If we don't make
It's
a
okay
mistake,
to make mistakes.
we are not
You're
human.
gonna learn, and how do you learn?
So when I do the interviews and I tell him, have you done any mistakes? And tell me, no, I start having doubts.
Yeah, exactly. How is it possible?
And I had that
possible?
interview lately, and I said, sorry, you are young. If I may ask your age, you never done a mistake in this? Well, guess what? You have to.
Yeah.
You are so young that you need to make some mistake to learn from them. You can't be perfect. So then the candidates start sharing. But I said, that's fine. Share with me the experience. Why you've insisted on that? Then I found out he has the right mindset. You see?
Okay, good,
it's not
good,
true
good.
I am best in this, best in that. It's true his mistakes. That I learned that this person has the mindset. And he said, I never had this type of interview before, so I'm sorry, I was not prepared to share this type of... I said, yeah.
To be vulnerable in
I
an
said,
interview,
look, whenever you have
powerful.
a CV is already read. I need to know you as a person.
How do you add value? What is so different about you that it should be you?
Yeah, because the CV, I read it. I know your courses. I know where you worked. I know if I need to check the reference, I can call people after your approval. There is no problem on that. But I need to know you as a person. And that's the most difficult part. I cannot know you if I don't know your mistake, if I don't know how you can overcome them, if I don't know how open you are, if I don't have this, and I don't see your vulnerability, and how you do this, how can I see myself working with you? It's collaboration, And once you have the right collaboration, you have the result.
Absolutely.
The result is just a result. That's why we call them a result. But the way of doing the result is the most important
aspect.
And
of
if
the
you don't,
entire
and if you don't have the right people from personality perspective, because we are not in automation, we are not in manufacturing that I need robot here and robot here. My business is related on people.
But that's true for every business. Even in technology companies where it is very robotic, there's an element of working with other people in the team and in the organization. So it's always going to be about people, even when we do have AI, even when we do have machines, even when we do have robots. And I think that's the key that for me has really come out of your conversation, that you can never forget and put that aside. And if anything, that's something we really have to draw more on in the times that we're moving into, So I wanted to get your closing thoughts, because I know we're running out of time. I think we can both speak for the next couple of hours, but we've had this conversation today about women in tech, about obstacles, challenges, mindsets, the skills that we need to develop. If there was one sort of takeaway or closing thought that you wanted to leave for women who are going to listen to this podcast, what would that be?
Invest on yourself. That's the key word. Start by being curious. Curiosity, I repeat myself, curiosity is the key. Don't be pressuring yourself to be passionate about something. If you don't have a passion, it's okay. But if you are curious, you're going to find what you like. And we do need more women to be curious. Curiosity makes you open, makes you want to listen. And when you listen, active listening, you can learn. True. And we need people who learn as much as they can. The first, I would say, if you ask me, what is the thing that you are shifting today, is I make myself to learn more every day. And what will be my dream job now is actually to move a company that I have no idea what they are doing. And to learn from scratch. What a beautiful thing. You wake up in the morning, you have no idea what's going on, you enter a meeting and you learn. It's refreshing for the brain, refreshing for the body. It's the best motivation because you are in a stage of learning, And I do believe I'm so lucky to be alive today because I'm going to learn something new. I'm the kind of generation that from, the fixed phone to the mobile phone to now we're going to have some chips in our body to AI to every time is learning. So to summarize, be curious, listen more, invest on yourself. You are in the best age without judgment, because today the society is opening the door for women, but we need more women that they are confident to do it. And don't be afraid of sharing mistakes.
I love that. Such powerful messages. Thank you. And I was totally inspired by you today. I've done lots of interviews, but really this, I think even for me, I've taken so much away from the conversation.
So happy.
I have the pleasure of being with you though now in a closed room. How do women who are listening to you and want to get in touch with you or get to know, more about you, or how do they reach out to you?
I have a public profile on LinkedIn and also on Instagram. I'm a very open person. They can reach out to me. I make sure that I answer to everyone because I'm also looking for opportunities to know more women and learn from them, and specifically the coming generation, to learn their challenge, to support them. And guess what? By supporting them, I'm learning from them. So it's a win-win situation.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
You're
Thank you so
welcome.
much for your time, for your passion, for your inspiration, for encouraging us to be curious. Really, thank you so much for coming onto the Women in Tech podcast.
Thank you for having me today.
You're very
Thanks,
welcome.
Suraya.
If this conversation resonated with you today, please like, follow, and share this podcast with as many women as you possibly can. This is about building momentum and encouraging women from all walks of life in all different stages to pursue their ambitions, their goals, and more importantly, to navigate spaces they never thought they could before.